Hola amigos and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk to you about the book I recently finished, which is Six of Crows by Liba Dugo. In case you don't know, it's a duology, so it has one more book in its entirety called Crooked Kingdom, which I will definitely read next, and it is set in the Grisha verse. So if you don't know what the Grisha verse is, probably you've heard of the recent hype of the Netflix series Shadow and Bone, and that's exactly it. There's the so-called Shadow and Bone trilogy. This trilogy is set in the same universe as this one, with the same magic system, the same countries and everything, the political conflicts you will recognize in this book if you've read the Shadow and Bone trilogy before, like I did. And yes, where Shadow and Bone was kind of more inspired by Russia in, I think, 18th or 19th century. This book takes place in a different part of the world, 2 years after the events of the trilogy, and it takes place in Ketterdam, which is a town or a city that's inspired by the Netherlands, especially Amsterdam, as you can kind of tell by the name. So it's offering us just another culture in the same continent with different beliefs, different businesses, and different social standings of the parties of this Grisha verse. And in this book we follow Cass, and Cass is a young criminal prodigy. He's very good at escaping uncertain situations, of planning ahead. He's very smart, and he gets the offer to pull off a heist that seems very impossible to do. So but because he was offered a lot of money for it, like really a lot in this currency, he wants to do it, and he's figuring out a plan to do it, and setting up a crew, recruiting people. So there's 6 in total that will pull off this heist, or plan to, no spoilers here. And in this heist they're trying to break into the ice court in Fjerde, which is in the very northern part of the countries, or the countries we know. I'm not sure if there's anything northern of Fjerde. And yeah, it feels kind of like also northern Russia a bit. There's a lot of ice and snow, and it's the most heavily secured building in the country, which they're planning to break into right now. So what's really cool about it is that you also get a much more insights into the different cultures in this book. So in just the Shadow and Bone trilogy, of course it went some other places, but mostly it focused on Ravka and this kind of setting of the Grishas and everything. And of course there's also Grishas in this book, and it's actually a really great new aspect to the Grisha power that we're discovering in this. Kind of a new way for Grishas to use their power, but it's not really focused on Grishas and their magical seeming powers, but it's focused around more human characters and of very different backgrounds. So there's someone who's Suli, someone who's Fjerden, Ravkan, of course, or from Ketterdam itself. So you get kind of all these mixed interests, these mixed beliefs of religion and superstition, and it's very interesting because it also creates a lot of conflict just within this book and between the main characters. Yes. And speaking of the main characters, what is very nicely done is that it switches and you get everyone's perspective. So a lot of the times you already know about stuff that some of the other characters don't, just because you're involved in certain conversations, and you know kind of more because you have the combined knowledge of all the characters. But also this book does a really good job of keeping you in the dark, because it doesn't show you everything. It hints at stuff and then it kind of lets you figure out stuff, but also there's a lot of just these intrigues and mysteries that are very hard to solve. And yeah, just the heist itself is so well written. It is incredibly smart, and the author herself even said that her character is smarter than her and she had a lot of time to plan all of this and the twists and turns and how they would react in certain situations, but these characters just react like immediately in their situations, and somehow it all falls together. You have these different stories tie in very, very nicely in this one. So I think you should definitely read this book, no matter who you are, but especially if you're a big fan of the Netflix show, I would highly recommend it. You don't need to read the trilogy before. Of course, there's events that are kind of hinted at in here because it's just set 2 years after, while in the series it's kind of more like on the same timeline, so it kind of intervenes a bit more. And of course the storyline, because of this, is not very different, but it's just different because it's centered all around this heist and not about Alina and all the Grecias and Ravka and what they're doing, and the Darkling of course also not. So if you're a really big fan of the show, like all of us fell in love with the characters of the Crows, then I would say it is very, very good for you if you would read it and just get to know more about the characters. Smart, funny, everything in one. And then just generally, like, if you haven't read the Shadow and Bone trilogy before or seen the Netflix series but are still looking for some, just like an easy YA fantasy read, this is very good, especially if you love movies like Ocean's 11 or the whole heist aspect, for example in Mistborn, that at least I know I really love it. I could read it in every book ever. Always just having these clever heists somehow pulled off that always seem impossible, and with lots of twists and turns. So I think this is a very suspenseful read as well. So yeah, I think I kind of hinted at it, that I loved it. So I had to give it 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely amazing read. Can't wait to read Crooked Kingdom, which is the second and final book in this duology. And yes, please, if you have any more heist books that you think I should read, let me know, because I'm always on the lookout for more. If not, I will see you next time. Bye!